July movie releases mark the absolute peak of summer movie season, and the one and only MCU movie of 2024 finally hits theaters. Please, oh please, I'm begging you, let Deadpool and Wolverine please not suck. I'm begging you. But are these July movie releases the good, the bad, or the meh? We'll find out coming up. My name is Brian, I am Dragon Movie Guy, and this is the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. Hey everybody, Dragon Movie Guy here. Welcome to another episode of the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. This is the good, the bad, and the for July 2024. It includes all of the movies we expect to be the biggest hits, but are they going to be good, bad, or just meh? So which of these July movie releases looks good, bad, or meh to you? Let me know in the comments section below this video which movies you think are good, bad, or meh. It's all about the conversation. It's the entire reason why I'm here on YouTube talking about movies. I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments section below this video. Joining me to talk the good, the bad, and the meh of July movie releases is a first-time guest to the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. He also has the biggest YouTube channel to date of any guest on the Dragon Movie Guy podcast. Flix Talk has over 43,000 subscribers, and his first-time watching and trailer reaction videos have been known to get over 100,000 views. He also does out-of-theater reaction shorts videos and has a series of Blu-ray and DVD hunting videos as he builds up his physical media collection. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the Dragon Movie Guy podcast, Flix Talk.
What an introduction. Wow. That was beautiful. I love that, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on.
Crew's been compromised.
We're low on fuel.
I can never focus on just being evil. Card not red?
Did you pull it out rapidly?
Yes, very rapidly.
Despicable Me 4, coming out July 3rd. This is the 6th film in the Despicable Me Minions franchise. Everyone's coming back, and this one has Will Ferrell as the bad guy, or in this case, the bad woman, the villainess. They finally had a kid. Gru and his wife, played by Kristen Wiig, have had a kid, and, you know, they're good, the Minions, but, Will Ferrell breaking out of jail, and he's trying to come after the Gru family. So, the way this works here is, we want to talk about what's good, what's bad, and what's the the meh of it all. So, are you a fan of the Despicable Me franchise? I was just about
to ask you the same thing. Have you seen all the movies? Are you all caught up?
I have, actually. When Minions: The Rise of Gru came out, I was doing written movie reviews for a website called Review Nation. Haven't been doing them the last year or so, but and I used that as the excuse to go buy all of the previous Minions movies and do a franchise ranking. So I did.
Oh wow!
And I remember watching the first Minions movie in theaters, but after that it kind of gets a little sketchy. I didn't quite make my way out to do it. But I actually had a lot of fun with them. Some of them are good, some of them are a little slow, and but I actually like the franchise. I don't love the franchise, but I do like the franchise. What's your take on the Despicable Me franchise? Have you seen these films?
So for me, I've only seen the first two, and I actually had to go back because I knew we were going to be talking about this, and I watched the trailer for the third one, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen that one. So 3 I have not seen, but you know what? It did look fun, and I saw that it was voice acted by at least the villain in that movie for part 3 was Trey Parker. So yeah. Is that Trey Parker from South Park? Oh my god, that's what I thought, and I was like, that's kind of I mean, they do voice work. That's what they're known for. So that's fantastic, and the trailer looked very funny. But one thing that I noticed, at least with 3 and 4, the trailers, what is with all the butt stuff?
That's just sort of the for whatever reason, Illumination. And what's interesting about Illumination is that it's a French and American company. So a lot of the animation is done out of Paris. And so
I didn't know that.
You get a little bit of the part of the thing that the French people bring to the table with with Illumination is the artsy fartsy kind of part of it, and so that kind of it jumps the language barrier a little bit. And with the minions, they speak in not really a language, but it's a language of their own. So I think between the language barrier of the animators and the writers and the voice cast, I think we get kind of more of a visual sense of the visual comedy element, in terms of sight gags and everything. And along with that,
a lot of I just saw a lot of spanking. I saw a lot of there was a scene where a syringe goes into Gru's butt, and I was like, it just seems to be a focal point of at least the trailers. I don't know, and I find that humor funny. I just noticed a lot of parents were like, "What is with the butts?"
Yeah, it is. These are family films, and farts are funny. Whether you're 2 or you're 20 or 200, farts are funny. So I think when you're talking about things that are jokes that you can do that are universal, that are family friendly ish, I think that for whatever reason the butt jokes, the fart jokes, for whatever reason, Despicable Me has gone in full tilt.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't want to go off too much on a side thing on that one. I know you were asking about the movie itself, but I do plan to watch 3 now because I did really enjoy the first 2 films. I didn't watch any of the side films like Minions themselves or anything like that. I live pretty close to Universal Studios, and Minions is a ride. It's very fun there. That's a huge part of the park. But I do love this franchise, in a sense of it's very fun. The characters are very lovable. I love the trio of girls that they have there. It's so funny that they have not aged like The Simpsons. They just stay the same age, right? At least that's what I'm gathering.
They have changed out the actresses playing them. Like, because when they did Despicable Me 1, all of the voice actors they hired for the girls were age appropriate. But obviously, every 2-3 years, kids grow up. So I think the original actresses did the first 2 films, and then since then, like Miranda Cosgrove does one of the voices from Nickelodeon.
Right.
So obviously she's now well past being a kid, but she can still do the voice of the character pretty well. So
yeah, I like Kristen Wiig a lot as well. I think the animation is fantastic. The situations are very, very fun. It's very quick cut from what I remember, at least the first 2. So you have a lot of spurts of things happening. I understand it's kind of like a 007 thing almost, where you have different foes to fight every movie, and with the involvement of the minions and the family dynamic, and there's an underlying message there. And I think these are fun movies for the most part. It's just how long do you see these movies kind of going on? Because I don't really know if the Minions fandom has died down or if they should go back to just focusing on the Minions themselves. What do you think?
I think Despicable Me and Minions is Illumination's first movie that they did, and it's their biggest property. So if you look at, like, Wikipedia, for example, they have several more Despicable Me and Minions movies planned out over the next several years, and obviously that's always dependent upon how well this particular film will be doing, but it's made a lot of money. So anytime a film and a franchise makes lots of money, it's a little bit cynical to say, but if people love it, why not keep making it? Some are going to be good, some are going to be some are going to be bad.
We're getting a Megan sequel, so come on, that's I really didn't see that. I thought it would be a one-off, but okay.
Yeah, Megan actually was a lot better than I thought it would. That I gave, the high concept for it was actually, it
was kind of fun. Yeah.
It was the thing that I thought was funny though is I'm from Seattle originally, so the fact that the film is set in Seattle, but they shot it in New Zealand, and if you look in the exteriors, there's like palm trees. I'm like, there's no palm trees anywhere close to Seattle.
I didn't even notice. I didn't even know that. That's
funny. So they were using some exteriors, some standard stock exteriors, and I'm like, oh, how lazy is this? But I did find it funny though that they were able to recreate a Seattle Police Department car for when they were shooting
in
down in New Zealand. So at least they paid that attention to detail. Overall, though, I do like this franchise. I don't love it though, and it's I consider the fart jokes part of the good, but it can also be part of the bad if it gets too fart focused. Which is kind of
it can get. I like that, fart focused. It can get lazy and repetitive and stuff like that. But I understand. It seems like Steve Carell is very dedicated to this character, and that's great because sometimes it can just become too much for someone. But like you said, they're probably giving him a huge check for this, and these movies are doing well. I don't know what the last couple of movies have done financially. I'm sure they've done fantastic, but and I mean, in a world of movies not doing that well, especially this year, at least underperforming a little bit what they thought they would make. I'm not saying that they push animation to the background, but I think when they look at the flow of what's happening with major movies, like I said, that don't perform, they go, hey, let's make sure that an animation movie that's going to just grab us, a bunch of money is somewhere shimmied in a summer release there. Not saying that it's, on the shelf or whatever, but I mean, and these movies are very difficult to make sometimes, so sometimes it is the pre-planning that can have these movies just ready on deck, if something does go wrong that year.
I liked Minions: The Rise of Gru. I didn't really like Minions the spinoff because it was a little bit too much sight gaggy, I think. So Minions by itself, Minions 2015, the first spinoff, to me is kind of it's a soft like for me, a soft good of Minions: The Rise for Gru, because I love the whole throwback 60s, 70s kind of James Bond, trying to be a Bond villain sort of thing that young Groot was trying to get into, Gru with hair. This one, it's interesting too, because with this one, Chris Renaud is back as director. He's basically, his whole career has been with Illumination, or most of his career has been with Illumination, and he was the director of Despicable Me 1 and Despicable Me 2. So Chris Renaud is back as director in Despicable Me 4. To me, that is definitely a good thing. You've seen the first two films. Yeah. Do you like the directing that was going on in Despicable Me 1 and 2?
I actually do. And now that you say that, I might want to check it out. I mean, do I have to see 3 to? I mean, I understand that they are now married, these two characters, and they have a family, because I saw that I did see that in the trailer. So I kind of know that does happen, and but I did like like I said, the pacing of everything, the sequences that we got. It was very fun. So I don't know how that's going to differ too much from the third one if I do check it out, but I like the directing from the first two.
And the quality of the animation seems to have gone up quite a bit, because I think we get as movie fans, I think we get a little spoiled with Pixar. And if you look at Despicable Me 1, it came out in 2007, 2008. The animation hasn't aged particularly well, but the difference, that's a little bit unfair to compare 2008 Illumination to 2008 Pixar, because Pixar by that point had been around for over a decade. And so the fact that where Illumination is now is about where Pixar was when Despicable Me 1 came out, says volumes about the quality of the animation. And I think even just watching the trailer for this one, it's pretty amazing how much like Pixar kept the original aesthetic of Toy Story in Toy Story sequels without losing the original feel of it, but advancing the technology. I think they've done a really good job of keeping the original feel and look to the Minions and to Gru and everybody in this cast. It doesn't look different to the eye, which I think is good. That is one of my good parts of it too.
And Toy Story, real quick, Toy Story is my favorite. Is like one of my favorite franchises as far as like animation goes. I love those movies.
What's the bad with Despicable Me or of these trailers as you look at it? Is there anything bad that makes you go, I don't think so?
Yeah, to me, honestly, Despicable Me at this point is just meh. Like, I mean, if it's on the background or if I see it on streamer and I'm kind of just curious, I might check it out. I don't think I'd be running out to theaters to see it, but for me, the bad would just be the repetition of, yeah, you're adding a little bit. You know, you have more of the family dynamic. Now you actually have a son because he adopted the other three. But even though, I mean, they are family, you know, not by blood, but that's okay. Because you're also doing something out of the norm too. I mean, how often in animation movies do they show adoption or embrace that concept a little bit, you know? So you are talking to maybe a minority of group of parents that do have children of adoption. So that's kind of a special thing that they're doing there. And I just wish that they would change it up a little bit, other than different missions at hand. Now you're going to get the whole family involved. It's going to turn into The Incredibles. I mean, at this point, it's just kind of what it is, and it's like we've seen that already. You know, it's like how much more different can you get?
Yeah, it does. It does kind of feel like they're going that route with it, and I guess when you have the supervillain thing, and it kind of lends itself to The Incredibles. I do wish that they would have stuck with Gru as a villain for longer than one film, because I like the redemption arc that they've done with him. But Gru as a villain is fun. Not that he's not fun as a hero, or or an anti-hero, or whatever you're calling him, but Gru as a villain is just sort of as a Bond villain style kind of villain. It's just hilarious the way that first film sets out in the competition between he and the other villains.
Yeah, he was pretty diabolical. He was.
Yeah, he's so good at it.
Like you said, they could have expanded on that at least for a couple of films. But I understand what they're thinking as well. They don't know how these films are going to do initially. So they probably just think, you know what, let's wrap up his story. Let's give him a redemption arc right away, because the next, we don't know how. I don't think that Illumination thought that these minions would take off the way they did. You know?
Well, especially because in that first film, they don't really have names or personalities. They're just sort of a horde of minions. And then as the one good thing about Minions, the spinoff, is that we got individual minions with names and more personality. So it wasn't just little yellow creatures speaking in gibberish. They actually had more personality and more of a differentiated kind of characters for each one. So that is the one good thing that I think really came out of Minions.
Absolutely.
For me, the meh of it is, it's only been, I think, 2 years since Minions: The Rise of Gru came out, and I'm one that I like. I think the trailer for this looks good, but this could just be a good trailer. And this could be just a half-baked sequel coming out too soon just to meet a release date. I don't think that's what it's going to be, but that's a little bit of the for me, is the release date, the whole thing of, the writer's strike and the actor's strike last summer, kind of thinning out the summer movie lineup this summer. That would be really, really easy as a studio to go, well, we're not pushing back the release date. In fact, we're probably going to move it up because there's going to be less competition, more dollars coming in. So that to me is a little bit of the meh factor. But to me, that's not enough to keep me away from the film. I do like this franchise. I don't love the franchise. It is Illumination. It's not Pixar. It's not quite that gold standard, but it is a good, solid silver standard for me. So,
okay.
At some point, I plan on watching this film. I probably won't watch it in theaters, but it's a soft good for me. Do you have any plans to watch this film in theaters or eventually at home?
No, I think I might watch it on streamer, if anything. Yeah, once I catch up with the third one.
Did you say Foley? We stole a helicopter! Part of me rather get locked up in this little Fisher-Price-looking squad car. Y'all are the Lego cops.
The fourth film in the franchise, going all the way back to the mid-'80s. This is one of my favorite action comedy genre films of all time. It's one of my favorite films from growing up in the 80s and 90s. Beverly Hills Cop 4. Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, or Axel F for whatever reason. Streaming on Netflix. So many thoughts, but are you a good, bad, or meh for the franchise as a whole?
So this is another one where I actually was going to try to watch the third one before, because that's the only one I have not watched yet. I was going to watch that before this stream. I didn't make time, so I'm probably going to watch it the next couple of days before the new release comes out. I really do enjoy the first one. I always made this gag of, and I just saw the first one maybe like 4 years ago. I didn't grow up with Beverly Hills Cop. So this was the first time watch for me in a reaction just a couple of years ago. But I thought it was hilarious how literally every 3 minutes, you would hear the Axel F theme song dun, 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 when he would be walking in the room or whatever. That had to have been the most times I've heard a theme song ever in a movie. But it's a great character. It is a great character, though. The second movie, he pushes it over the top, and I actually prefer the first one over the second one, even though I know people do like the second one. Some people tell me don't even watch the third one, but what is your thoughts on the third one? Because I want to catch up.
Yeah, number 3 came out the year I graduated high school. It came out in 1994. Yeah, skip number 3. If you cherish your memories of... Yeah, I mean, Beverly Hills Cop 1, Beverly Hills Cop 2 are brilliant, and they are products of the 80s, and they exemplify everything great about 80s filmmaking. Beverly Hills Cop 3 tried to be more of an action film than a comedy, and it kind of came at a point where Eddie Murphy was trying to take himself more seriously and be the cool guy, Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy's cool. I love him, but Eddie Murphy at his best is Coming to America. It's Beverly Hills Cop. It's 48 Hours.
He's a comedian.
Yeah, it's him with his laugh and kind of pointing out because that's part of what I love about Beverly Hills Cop is here he is, a cop from Detroit, pointing out the ridiculousness of the extreme wealth and privilege of Beverly Hills. That's sort of it's a simple premise, but that's part of what we love about it, or that's part of what I love about it. And then to see that kind of resurrected a little bit in the trailer, where we're seeing, one of the first shots in the trailer, as I pull it back up here, we have a woman feeding sushi to her Pomeranian. I mean, what more ridiculous, Beverly Hills 1%er thing is there out there than stuff like that? So I just, assuming that this film is coming from the right place, I'm excited for it, but I'm cautiously optimistic for it. I wonder if there's two bad things about this trailer, and it's not so much the trailer itself. It's the situation around the film and the franchise. For me, especially a comedy, any comedy that you have to wait 10 years or more for the sequel is an automatic there's something like someone needs a hit, so we're gonna keep the sequel until we need a hit, a la Anchorman 2. So that's the first one. The second one is, and I know Netflix spends a ton of money, and these streaming movies have been getting better over the last couple of years. But when you have a franchise with this many big name people, when you have Kevin Bacon, when you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt joining the cast, when you have and you're bringing back the originals, and it's not getting a theatrical release. And I realize, okay, Netflix is funding it, so therefore it's going to Netflix. I get that. It doesn't have me optimistic for this film, which is why I have a factor of it, and I hope that I'm wrong. That's kind of what is making me pause a little bit. I don't know. What do you think? Am I wrong here? Comedy sequels over 10 years?
Yeah, no, with that, I totally agree, because I've said it when it came to, and I love him to death, Kevin Smith with the Jay and Silent Bob. When they were doing the reboots, or at least the sequel, which he called a reboot for Jay and Silent Bob, I knew it was not going to have the same spark. Wait, guys, we're bringing everybody back. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be something great, right? you have lightning in a bottle sometimes with these characters. You had all the characters when they're in their prime. You had all the cameos in there. You had Will Ferrell in that original movie, and all these guys when they're at their prime, right? Girls and gals. Now, when you bring everybody back and you try to just keep with that same formula, sometimes 20 years later doesn't work. He tried to do Clerks 3, didn't work. All these things that you wait so long to do, like you said, it doesn't have that same. People are in it for different reasons. They'll be just coming back for the paycheck, so I'm gonna pop in, and it's the love for the art of making the movie of these characters that a lot of people love. It's not there anymore, so that's gonna resonate on screen. At least for me, I can see that, and I can definitely see that with this. Even though I haven't seen the third film, I can see that with what Eddie has been putting out in the last couple of years. As far as I know, he did You People on Netflix, which I really wasn't the biggest fan of. I know a lot of people liked it. I thought his character was funny and very serious, and I could see someone like that in real life. It's very hard to kind of pull off a movie like that in 2024, and I know it's kind of ridiculous to say because I really love the Bad Boys franchise, and that had such a huge time gap between the second and this third one that we got in 2020. And I felt like the fourth one even held up. I don't know your thoughts on the fourth one, but I thought the fourth one was pretty good as well. So,
I love Bad Boys 1 and 2. I hated Bad Boys 3. I have not seen Bad Boys 4 yet. Not because I'm avoiding it, but it just, to me, it didn't look that great. And the fact that they brought back the director from Bad Boys 3 was a major, for me. Because Bad Boys 3 it was the epitome of what not to do with a long-running franchise. Kevin Smith, I love Kevin Smith. He's not infallible. I didn't like Clerks 2. I love Clerks 3.
What?
Because I love
Clerks 2.
I love how he was able to bring in the life imitating art imitating life factor of it, of Kevin Smith having a heart attack and being able to bring that into a storyline where Dante and Randall are getting older. So I love that, and I love that. To me, that was the exception that proves the rule. As to waiting 10 years for a comedy sequel, I think it's a good rule. But to me, Clerks 3 was the film that is the exception that proves the rule. I'm someone with Kevin Smith that I go back to watching Clerks in theaters in high school. So I'm a Clerks fan, a Kevin Smith fan all the way back to the original Clerks. But you bring up Jay and Silent Bob reboot. That is one of the very few Kevin Smith movies that I did not see in theaters. I own it on Blu-ray, but I haven't watched it all the way through yet. As for Beverly Hills Cop, every time I try and watch Beverly Hills Cop 3, it just by the time they end up at Six Flags, I can't, and I end up stuttering my way through why I'm giving it a shot. I have a friend here in Vegas whose name is Carlos, and we bring up all the time, just as in passing, the line from Beverly Hills Cop 2, where the police captain takes credit for Eddie Murphy's work. Eddie's like, well, and Carlos, which of course, as we know, is Spanish for Charles. That was an ongoing joke that I had with that we kind of, as a group of friends, had with our friend Carlos. But that's just one of those lines from that series that is so iconic and sticks out over time and doesn't get old. So I am cautiously optimistic that this is going to be it's a soft good that I'm feeling for this. There's not really anything bad that I feel about this for Beverly Hills Cop 4. Is there anything bad that you're seeing in this trailer that makes you kind of pause and go, no?
Well, you know what? It's funny that you mentioned in Beverly Hills Cop 3, you said there was a lot of action. It seemed like the trailer, when I watched the Axel F trailer, it did seem like they were trying to push a lot of the action. There's like a lot of helicopter scenes happening, a lot of just things happening in general. You also get was it Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this as well? Oh yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. You get Judge Reinhold and John Astin in here as well, and then Kevin Bacon. So you have a great cast, I think, and then you're just gonna get what we were talking about before with the Minion stuff. We're gonna get a repetition of and this is not the 80s. That's the thing. This is not the 80s. We're in 2024. So I know what they're going to try to do. They're going to just try to implement certain things like drones or criminals that have new tech. It's going to somehow blend the lines or blur the lines a little bit of a Bad Boys movie, because what else can you do with a franchise from the 80s that can appeal to someone in the 2000s? I mean 2020s. You know what I mean? You have to grasp onto those things, and that's why I think with Bad Boys, you brought in a new task force to appeal to the younger demographic, and I think that's why they're bringing Joseph Gordon-Levitt in. And of course, you're going to have this, Murtaugh and Riggs type of situation. I'm too old for this shit. And you're going to have Axel F and his buddies not really, wanting to be there, but they feel like they have to be. To me, it just becomes like you're beating a dead horse at this point. But the trailer did look fun.
And that kind of brings up what I was really reticent about with Bad Boys 4 was the whole, it's 30 years later in the case of Bad Boys, like, and in the film, you have Martin Lawrence as a dad, not just a police detective, but he's a dad to grown kids, and they're still walking around like they're in their 20s, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there was a certain, when I see the trailers for Bad Boys 4, there's a certain I don't buy it factor that they would still have that suspended youth sort of thing, that arrested development of emotional maturity. I didn't buy that with that one, and the fact that we're now seeing Axel Foley as a father, it kind of, to me, splits the difference a little bit. So it's not a meh, but because of the trailers for Bad Boys 4, that really sold me on this isn't gonna work. I'm kind of wondering if Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley, as a grown man, adult, calling his daughter, would he still be having the same flattering of authority? Would he still have the same laughing at the ridiculousness of...
I mean, he's still wearing a varsity jacket in this one. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like he's still acting like he's in high school and college, and
yeah. So I don't, it kind of works in the trailer, but because of how bad the Bad Boys trailer looked to me, I'm really kind of leaning towards the meh. And when you combine that with the 10 years sequel kind of thing, and combining with the streaming, to me that kind of makes it like almost to the point of meh, but not quite, because I still love Eddie Murphy, I still love Axel Foley, and I still love this franchise. Those first two films, if they can recapture that energy, which I think by bringing back John Ashton, bringing back Judge Reinhold, and to a certain extent bringing back Balki Bartokomous, bringing back Bronson Pinchot, and even Paul Reiser, I think what I'm seeing energy-wise from the trailers it doesn't look like they're just showing it for money. It does look like they could be organic to the characters, which is really all we want with a comedy anyways. Is it speaking a truth that's funny, rather than just someone saying the same joke in a different tone of voice that doesn't fit with where the actor is or where the character is. So to me, this is a soft good for watching it, but it does come with a heavy, it's a potential meh for me. I don't know. How about you? Are you planning to watch this film?
You know what, I am, and I think I still, even though what you said and a lot of people said about Beverly Hills Cop 3, I think I'm going to check it out. I mean, it's kind of, it sounds like it's going to be The Exorcist 2, the heretic situation is what we're getting here with Beverly Hills Cop 3, is what you guys are making it seem like. But I have to watch it because I really want to watch the good, the bad, the ugly, so to speak. And I do like his character. And I think for this fourth one, and I'm going to say this, I think you should give Bad Boys 4 a chance, because the way you were talking about Clerks 3, about these characters getting old and maturing and just dealing with life situations, they do touch on that in the fourth movie the most. And I understand these directors for part 3 and 4, they do almost seem like Michael Bay clones in the fact of that they are trying to up the ante with these wild, shots and all that. And I understand they're paying a little homage, but they're like the newer generation, I believe. I don't know if they're brothers or just friends, but
I think they're friends.
Friends, yeah. But I do like that style. It is over the top. Will Smith's character is always gonna. Mike Lowry is always gonna be the one that acts younger. But in 3 and 4, Martin is definitely feeling his age in this one. Like, you could tell he has a different life goal, but he's always got Mike Lowry's back to the end. And that's kind of what I like about these movies. Now, they need to just stop him, though. That's the thing, is that you're going to get a Lethal Weapon 5 situation here. Like, we don't want that. So I think they need to do with Axel F. We need to see some kind of conclusion. We need to see the highest. The stakes are high, right, for his character. We need to see him. Could he potentially die in this one, or get very, very injured to where he's forced to retire? I just want to see a conclusion for this character, and I think it would be smart if Eddie were to do have a conclusion for this character. But like you said, if the money's there, they're going to keep offering it to him. But Netflix, I'm still meh with Netflix movies either being pretty good or just flat out bad. I mean, they've never really. I'm trying to think of a Netflix movie that over exceeded my expectations, and I can't really think of one offhand, but they're either solid or just not really good.
The Adam Project, or the Adam, whatever it was, the one with
that's the one, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. It wasn't great, but it was good. It had a good heart to it.
I thought it was good. Yeah, that's the same guy that did Free Guy, right? I forget the director's name.
Yeah, Sean Levy.
Sean Levy, yeah. So he's done a lot of movies with Ryan Reynolds already, and that was fine. I know it was kind of received right in the middle. Like, a lot of people didn't like it, a lot of people understood it. But yeah, I mean, I think if they have the money to shell out for a decent budget, I'm more of the fan of the practical. So if they want to make it feel like 80s with these characters, yeah, you're gonna get helicopters flying through LA. Cool. Show me some real explosions, man. Like, I'd rather see that than a CGI explosion. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and honestly, too, that was the final good thing for me with this trailer, was that it was watching the couple of trailers for Bad Boys Back in the Future. I'm thinking back in the back times. Beverly Hills Cop 4. Watching that trailer, I love the fact that we're getting practical, actual helicopters flying through the streets of LA. I mean, I don't think it's. I wonder how they got the insurance to do that. But
I was just gonna say, because the mayor of LA for years has been trying to get Hollywood or big studios to film in LA. No one will do it because it's so expensive. Only the Fast and the Furious people will do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hopefully the helicopter chase through downtown LA will prove to be a good part for this movie. So to me, I think I am planning eventually on watching this on Netflix. I don't have a Netflix subscription at the moment, so this will be one of those that when I do sign up for Netflix again, I will definitely watch it then.
It's getting pricey. It's getting pricey.
Try to do the bundle here and there. But so are you planning to watch Beverly Hills Cop 4?
Yes, I will. Yeah,
nice.
I'll be watching it streaming. Whenever. What is it? 4th of July weekend? Is that when it's coming out?
Yeah, July 3rd. That Wednesday. It's coming out. So.
Okay. So right. Okay.
Yeah. So I probably will watch it eventually.
She turns to the camera and addresses the lens directly.
Night Stalker.
Night Stalkers.
I can handle myself.
MaXXXine.
The third film in the X trilogy. This is bringing back Mia Goth. This is bringing back Ty West. This is the final film of the X trilogy. This is MaXXXine, now taking place around MaXXXine Minx in LA in the 1980s. And MaXXXine is now a recovering porn star for whatever reason, trying to go straight in amongst the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez era of Hollywood. What do you think of this franchise?
We, in this household, we love that Ty West franchise so far. So I've seen X, I don't know how many times. I've seen Pearl a few times. I I feel that Pearl is a better quality acting performance movie, like because we get all focus on Mia Goth as Pearl. I mean, yeah, we get that in she's playing MaXXXine, but in X, but get to see a little more emotional range in Pearl. Now, X is a more fun movie. That's when you get your slasher movie, right? And you get a very paying homage to a lot of the Texas Chainsaw and all those creepy secluded house in the woods, a cabin in the wood type of movies, and I really enjoyed that as well. I also like the back lore of they're going out to film adult movies and whatnot. Spoiler alert, guys, if you guys are listening, she's kind of the only one that makes it out. This is flash forwarding 6 years later, I believe, from 1979 to 1985, and we see her, as we know that adult actresses have tried to become movie stars before, or get into break into the industry. Tracy Lords, it's not easy, and I think that even from the trailers we get to see that her struggle is there, but her determination for wanting to be that, she keeps quoting what she's been saying since X is, I want to be an effing star. I want to be an F. They're going to know my name. And I think just this character wanting to push through and make a name for herself has got me to love this character since we were introduced to her, and everything that's happening around her. You have a fantastic cast too, by the way. You got Kevin Bacon once again. You got Giancarlo Esposito in there. I believe is it Halsey? I forget the act.
Yeah, singer.
Yeah, singer in there as well. So you got some. They amped up the budget for sure. We're going back to LA, so we got talking about a lot of Hollywood movies actually set in Hollywood this episode, but I think it's a good backdrop, especially in '85 with the Richard with the Night Stalker stuff going on, because that's just another subplot that we can dive into. That I think even if you didn't follow the first two movies, this might pull in another audience that's into crime movies or series and stuff. So they'll be like, oh, you know what? Which I think is very smart to do, because sometimes when you have a sequel or prequel or whatever, you got to watch all those movies before. And that's where I think they kind of did a smart move. Ty West did a smart move of writing that into the script for this kind of movie. And I'm very excited to see this one. I will be watching this for sure day one in theaters.
Yeah, I am someone who I didn't see. I did not see Pearl. I loved X, saw X in theaters. I didn't avoid Pearl. It just didn't. It kind of came and went for me. Like I just didn't. There was just something missing for me that I didn't go to see it. I planned to go watch it, and because coming out of X, I loved X. I was excited for Pearl, and then I just never got around to seeing it. So this one, the trailers got me right away for MaXXXine. Yeah. Definitely planning on watching this one. And yeah, you're right. The cast in this one, especially for being a horror film, which in horror films generally do not get big name stars. But as you're saying, filming in LA, you're able to get Bobby Cannavale to come in and do a small role. You're able to get Kevin Bacon to come in, Michelle Monaghan. When's the last time you saw Michelle Monaghan in a horror film? So, and then, yeah, of course, Giancarlo Esposito, Gustavo Fring, Breaking Bad. You know,
that toupee they put on him is pretty wild.
Yeah, it just pretty much anything he does, whether it's Disney, Star Wars, anything he does, I love. I'm really excited and eager to see this one. And you know, you bring that up as a really good point too, of when adult film actresses and actors try and go mainstream. That's been out there for a long time. There's a reticence, I think, of mainstream Hollywood, and I don't know whether that's just because it's Middle America. That is sort of an interesting storyline that they chose to pick on for this film, of an actress who has skills, but in order to get money and to pay the bills, she goes into that adult line of work. And from there, she tries to go legit, tries to go mainstream. And that's what we see in that first trailer, is her doing an audition, the casting director looking down at her nose going, and you've been doing adult films, you know, like that whole thing. I think that's the kind of thing that could be in the wrong director's hands, could be kind of like eye rolly, like, okay, yeah, we get it. But I think in Ty West's hands, he's done such a great job handling at least the first film in the series, And I've only heard good things about Pearl, the second film, which I haven't seen. So I'm going to assume that he's handling it well and with a good sense of humor in this third one as well. To me, this is good across the board. There's nothing really bad about this trailer, this scenario, the look of the film. I love that they're going 4x3 and shooting on film for some of these shots in the trailer. All of this to me is good. There isn't a meh factor, which is, I try to come up with a good, a bad, and a meh for each film because I think I don't want to just fanboy out here. But I am a huge fan of...
No, that's good.
Yeah, and I'm not really a huge horror movie fan myself. So I do really love that first film. I love the energy from it. The throwback 70s feel to it. And just the look and the feel that they're going for with the 80s. How about you? Is there anything bad or meh for you about the trailer for MaXXXine or the setup?
So, I mean, the good is what I kind of named. I mean, yes, I am a fanboy, but I want to see these characters, what ends up happening. I do like that they are announcing that this is kind of the final film in the trilogy because, like you said, we don't want this to be an Axel Foley situation. We don't want this to be a Bad Boys situation where MaXXXine comes back miraculously because this is the thing. I know you haven't seen Pearl. I will, but it is kind of good that you mentioned to me right now that you're not the biggest horror fan because Pearl is nothing really of horror. It's more of a deep dive character study of the older woman that we saw in X, so, also played by Mia Goth. So, and we're also talking about World War I times. So you get to see life in a whole different lens, which is where I started to see Ty West progress a little bit. So the only thing I could say about this third film, as far as bad, sometimes when they throw so much money at you, your budget, with all of your actors attached, that can go sideways. Sometimes, less is better. And I think with the first two films that he had, less was better. I just don't want to see him, not be able to juggle everything that's thrown at him with this cast. And then, of course, the subject nature around it. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I could see it happening from because I've only seen besides the two in the trilogy that we got. What was the film that he came out with? It was called Hell. Oh God, it was something in the house, Devil in the House or something like that.
Yeah, I looked it up before. It wasn't like a hugely successful. Yeah, I mean it was.
Yeah, it was an indie film, but I think that's where most people checked him out, and then the X was announced. But that's the only bad that I could possibly see happening from this is that he has too much on his plate with all of this going on, and I think it's going to be a pretty good film. And I wish I knew the budget off head because I remember the first two films being very low budget.
If I remember right, I thought that they filmed and shot all three films at pretty much the same time. I could be wrong with that, but I don't think this is one where they did the first because they did the first two at the first two films at the same time, and I think they also did this one at the same time too. So I don't think that there would be a thing where they're like, well, we're going to spend a lot of money on the third one. I think this is probably one where if they did spend more money on it, it's just because they knew they're filming in LA, so they had to allocate more money. I think. I don't know, but that would be my guess.
So it says X had a budget of $2 million and it made 25.
I would imagine that it's definitely more than $2 million for MaXXXine though. Just from the star power alone. Kevin Bacon probably is $2 million.
Being a horror fan in the 21st century has been such a crazy thing because they're focused more on profits than anything, right? So they're taking a lot of lore that exists. So you got the reboot culture. Everything is being redone. We saw that at the turn of the century, man, with all of these House on Haunted Hill and 13 Ghosts and all these movies that existed before that are just being, repackaged and sold to us. And they're not good movies necessarily, but they're to get butts in the seats for that weekend and turn a little bit of a profit. Now we've got this elevated horror era that came around like the Jordan Peele or like the Babadook and all this other stuff where you have people really looking at horror or or suspense thrillers in a different light, or psychological thrillers in a different light now. Now we can make a smarter horror movie, and it doesn't have to necessarily contain a bunch of gore, blood, or nudity like it did back in the 70s and 80s and 90s even. We can start making movies that people are talking about and wanting to give Academy Awards to, because that wasn't even that's not even heard of. No, I won't, I know Emily Blunt was fighting for that when Quiet Place came out. Like, why aren't these movies getting nominated?
In Hollywood, look, it's show business. Franchises are proven when they make money, and they make money over time. So why not, I guess, to a certain extent, and especially considering that horror films are generally cheaper to produce. Why not come out with ones? It's just, give it to new filmmakers, give it to talented filmmakers, see what they can do with it, see if they can do something different, do something fresh. It's just when they do copy paste. I think, everybody does copy paste here and there to a certain extent, but it's just when it goes into the horror genre and they do copy paste, I think is where it kind of takes advantage of the fans a little bit.
Well, that's what I was gonna go with my last rant was that Blumhouse, regardless of what people think about the quality of movies, I think some are better than others, obviously. They have been able to create full-length feature films, either based on existing prior lore or short films, expand on them, but been able to create them with such a small budget and turn a great profit. This is what's getting other studios to want to dive deeper into horror. But it's a double-edged sword where, as horror fans, we want to see more horror in theaters, but we want to see good horror movies in theaters. We don't want to just see, Night Swim or whatever it is, and these movies that should have just stayed on YouTube as a short film. And it's very lazy, like you said, the copy and paste. But I think we're getting more people that are starting to take a chance with either young directors or new script writers. And they're like, you know what? I see something there. We can produce this for cheap and it'll turn a major profit. That's what I would like to see, because there's always people that go, oh, Hollywood is just reboot this. And why isn't there any fresh stories? Well, there is fresh stories. It's just that studios are not taking a chance on these writers. They're really not. I can only imagine there's stacks, like you got the stack of movies behind you. There's a stack of scripts that are being untouched because studios will not take a chance on that, Well,
and to be fair too, I think some of the newer franchises that we've seen the last couple of years that were really low budget actually turned out a lot better than I thought they would. Like for example, Megan. We already talked about Megan. Megan was fun. There was a life and an energy to it. It wasn't a perfect film, and it wasn't like the greatest thing that's ever been made, but it was fun, and it was a new concept. And I think with horror, one of the good things about the horror genre is that all you need is a very simple premise executed well. I mean, not even great, but just executed well. Like Smile. I mean, who hasn't seen someone who's a little socially awkward with a creepy smile? That's a little creepy sometimes. So why not make a horror film where there's, a spirit or a demon or whatever that causes a creepy smile?
I actually have not seen that movie yet.
Oh yeah? Oh, okay. Sorry for the spoilers.
I plan to see it though. No, you're good.
Well, I was just thinking because the trailers for Smile 2 just came out, so that's kind of what was fresh in my mind. But so Smile and Megan and some of these other newer franchises that are now getting sequels that were fun and well executed. And the third one that I was going to say is The Black Phone, which is I think more of a thriller than a horror film. But that one was really well done. I mean, how often how often do we look at Obi-Wan Kenobi and think, oh yeah, he's a horror villain? But in that film, he was the creepy guy with the windowless van in the 80s, and that was for those of us that grew up in the 80s, that whole windowless.
Mean Ethan Hawke?
Oh yeah, sorry, Ethan Hawke. I was mixing up my guys with light brown hair in their 40s.
Why is that getting a sequel, by the way? Why is the Black Phone getting Black Phone 2? I don't.
Because it was
That
really
was
good.
another.
It
No,
was
I
really
understand that, but from a fan standpoint, it could have just ended there. I do understand that there could be more stories that could be told from that, but sometimes when you milk it that much, it loses its light. You know, like once again, it's a light. I'm not saying it's a lightning in a bottle to a sense that they can't create great sequels off of this, but I think sometimes one and dones are the best. You know.
Yeah, and I think I think the tendency is to green when something is successful, the tendency is to green light until they prove that they can't green light it. Like the Meg. The one saving grace with the Meg is that it kind of goes into it winking and nodding at the audience, knowing that sort of like Snakes on a Plane, where they go in saying, okay, this is going to be a B movie, this is going to be a bad movie, but we're purposely making it a bad movie. So enjoy the badness, the goodness of the badness, to a certain extent, I think. So, yeah, that was a really far-ranging discussion surrounded around MaXXXine, but I think,
But I will be seeing it, though. I will be seeing it in July. When did it come? July? Is that coming out July 3rd as well?
Yeah, July 5th.
Okay.
So that Friday.
Change plans. We need backup of the moon landing.
You mean to fake it?
What? I want you to walk as if you're carrying your mother. She's frail, but also heavy.
Fly Me to the Moon is sort of one of the proof that the actors and writers strike that came out last summer makes this particular weekend of July 12th. This is like the only big, quote-unquote, big movie that's coming out. And I don't even really think it's that big of a movie, but it's the one movie that has Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. So I'm calling it, a big-ish release. Also, Woody Harrelson's in it. It surrounds NASA, the space program of the 70s, and I like having friends with different points of view, and one of my friends thinks they faked the moon landing. So the fact that this film kind of tackles that faking the moon landing on kind of drew me to it a little bit in the first place. So I think, it's a comedy, it's not a drama. I think the way that they're keeping this one focused on Earth and kind of the conspiracy theory of it all, it kind of draws me to this one, but to me this is like a soft good in general. Like what are your thoughts on Fly Me to the Moon in terms of
So I'll be honest, I did see this trailer at home first. I didn't see it in theaters, but when I did see it at home, it looked like a Netflix movie or some kind of Prime type of movie, not in quality, but just in more subject nature. And I'll be honest, I was one of those big conspiracy theorists, man, when I was like in high school or right after high school. So the moon landing was up there. I was over there talking about, well, what about this footage and what about this and this, right? And then I'd always heard about the whole Stanley Kubrick thing, about that there was like a rumor where they, were talking to him about putting something together. So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. Now, when I saw this trailer, the first half doesn't seem anything out of the norm. It just seems like a NASA, but you could also have like a relationship with Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. We've seen that type of movie done a billion times. And then we see her talking about them replicating or at least staging a moon landing. And I was like, I think my jaw dropped when I saw that, because I was like, are they really going to take a chance on putting out a film like this so close to Independence Day? Because it could go one of two ways. People could really see it as satire, and then you get a bunch of people that are like, see, I told you, the conspiracy theorists, Either way, you're going to get a bunch of people angry online talking about it, and I think that's what they wanted to do, but kind of do it in a more fun, catty way, and I think it's kind of clever. It did make me chuckle, some of the dialogue along the way. I think at the guy at the end, the director they bring in, the guy goes, "See, I knew we should have brought in Kubrick," or something like that, and it's very funny, lighthearted, but I think it's going to be a little more than that. And Channing Tatum is a actor that even to this day has not completely sold me on him being a serious actor. I just know him as the funny guy, 21 Jump Street Channing Tatum. And to me, when you skate through your career off of your good looks, then I kind of just, I don't really give you too much of, I don't pay you too much of mind. I heard he's really good in that one Steve Carell movie about the wrestling. It was based on a true story.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what that was called.
Foxcatcher.
Foxcatcher. I need to watch that because I heard that was actually a good drama.
He and Mark, all three of them, Mark Ruffalo, Steve Carell, and Channing Tatum are all brilliant in the film.
Maybe he'll change my mind then once I watch that. But I do think he's a solid actor. I just want to see him bring it a little more. I know Scarlett Johansson is very dynamic. I've seen her in a lot of stuff. Since she was like a kid actor, So, the cast is great. I think it's going to be one of those just taboo, like you don't talk about it type of situations that's going to get a lot of people talking online. But I like that stuff, like I said. So I might watch it, even though it's kind of like, I never really I know it's funny, no pun intended, gravitated towards these type of space movies. But like the Apollo 13 movie and all these not Armageddon, but like Space Cowboys, like movies like that, I never really gravitated towards too much. But I might watch this one when it does come out to streamer. I don't think I would watch it in theaters, to be honest.
Yeah, and that was sort of my thought when I saw that this film was getting a theatrical release. There's the ones like Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley that you think, okay, why isn't this getting a theatrical release? When I saw the trailers for this one, my first thought was, oh, okay, this is a movie that's going to be streaming on Prime. This is not one that's going to be in theaters because, I think the rom-com of it all, there's a certain vetting that you have to do with scripts for movies. They go through so many different alteration, different versions and over the years in order to make, they always say it's a miracle that any movie gets made with the amount of different fingerprints that end up on any kind of a script or filmmaking process.
My God, look what's happening to the Blade movie.
Yeah, exactly. So when I see the trailer for this, I keep, there's a little bit of a meh factor for me. When I love Scarlett Johansson, I love her as an actress. The whole thing where it's kind of channeling Top Gun a little bit, where she's sort of a Charlie type character, where she's the outsider coming into the military thing, and you have the guy who was in the last Top Gun movie as the alpha male with the chiseled jawline and guy. It's kind of the same feelings that I have when I was watching the trailers for the Fall Guy, where it didn't look bad. He just didn't answer any sort of why we're doing it. Like, it's just sort of not that every movie has to have a reason for being, but usually there's a reason or two that you can point to and go, oh, okay, well that I could tell just from the trailer that scene alone is what sold the studio on greenlighting this picture. There's nothing in this trailer, when I look on the Wikipedia page, when I look at the IMDb page, there's nothing really about this trailer other than the whole faking the moon landing thing. There's nothing there that makes me go, okay, I have to watch this film. There's something really unique. There's something really clever here. Or just something really fun. When you're talking summer movies, those are supposed to be the best of the best in terms of exciting summer entertainment. Flashiest, most explosive, funniest, whatever the case may be. And I'm not getting any of that with this film. I mean, there's, when you look at, the action films that get dumped in January, for example, usually there's a real reason why. Like, oh, well, yep. As we get to the end of Christmas season, and we start getting the January trailers coming out, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a January action film for you. That kind of, not that exact feeling, but I kind of get a little bit of that. Like, why isn't this film coming out in the fall? Like, this to me feels like a late September, early October, pre-holiday. Like, they want to have something other than horror films in the fall, some sort of alternate programming. This doesn't feel like a mid-July summer movie release, prime date, prime time, with very little competition. This doesn't feel like one of those to me.
Yeah, I'm honestly thinking, who's the demographic for this film? Maybe the people that lived through this situation, because I cannot imagine young people, even if it is Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum, going to watch this unless you're really into space exploration or potentials. I don't even know if they go to space in this movie. I just know that they're going to stage a moon landing. So if you are interested in that, that's, once again, I'm not saying it's a niche demographic. I'm just saying it is a specific demographic. And usually, like you just said, if you're going to hit with the summer movie, you have to appeal to a huge demographic. I mean, we're talking about taking your families to. Are you going to take your families to go see Fly to the Moon with me? I don't think so. You know, I think there's better options out there, and this just seems like a very bland trailer that we got.
Yeah, and when I think about it too, like you ever watch? Do you watch Pitch Meeting with Ryan George, the YouTuber?
I believe so. Is that he's playing the dual characters back and forth?
Where he's doing the screenwriter guy and producer guy, and he pitches different movies. To me, this kind of feels like someone saying, "Well, I've got a script, you know. Yes, you know, I've got a NASA movie for you. Yes, sir, I do." It kind of feels like that, where someone says, "Well, you know, Argo made a lot of money and won Best Picture. Yeah, it did. So we've got another NASA set, you know, period piece from the 60s and 70s. Maybe this one can win. Maybe, you know, like, I don't know. I'm butchering the pitch meeting, but I'm picturing that discussion in my head. So I kind of think that we're getting a little bit of Argo mixed in with a little bit of Top Gun mixed in with, we've got a Top Gun actor. So that's to me, that's the meh factor. And
which Top Gun are you talking about? You're not talking about Glen Powell, are you?
Yeah, Glen Powell. From
Is he in this movie?
Oh, you know, you're right. It is Channing Tatum. I thought he might have. I'm so Glen Powell.
Co-star.
I'm so Glen Powelled out because Glen Powell's in so many different films.
We have Ray Romano in the movie. I mean, if that's any...
Well, you know, I guess, and in the same way that I was mixing up guys with light brown hair, apparently I was mixing up guys with chiseled six-pack abs and chiseled jaws.
We are talking Twister tonight, so that's...
Yeah, that's the other one. Glen Powell's on my mind for a reason, so... Yeah, Channing Tatum. Yes. Yeah. Magic Mike himself. But I guess, that, you know, that kind of just goes to the genericness of the casting in this film. Like when you think, you know, of all the combinations of good-looking men and good-looking women that could be in a rom-com together, you know, there's no part of my soul that says I was screaming to see Channing Tatum and
about the moon landing.
Yeah. Well, and
he doesn't even have a look like he would exist back in I'm so dumb. I don't even know when the moon landing was in the 60s.
Yeah, late 60s, 67, 60s. Yeah, I just
doesn't have that look at all.
Yeah, he's too beefy. Like most of the astronauts were skinnier, but yeah, to me there's nothing that says I'm dying to see Scarlett Johansson in a rom-com with Channing Tatum. To me, that just kind of feels like they're spinning the Rolodex of available Hollywood actors at that time, and they're the ones that said yes. To me, it's not a bad, but it is a giant for me for this film. I'm not planning to watch it in theaters again. How about you?
It might be the sleeper of the summer. You never know.
It could be, and it might be a great rom-com. The trailers don't look that way to me. So for me, it's a meh and a pass. How about you? Are you planning to watch it?
I'm just gonna watch it probably on streamer.
Gotcha. Wait for streaming.
Yeah.
I saw a beast rise up out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. He'll kill. And kill again.
I know you're not afraid of a little bit of dark.
This is the one shot that I could find of Nicolas Cage in Longlegs as a serial killer going up against Maika Monroe. It is brighter. It is fleshed out a little bit. It was much darker on the image that was on IMDb because
they purposely did that so you couldn't pinpoint it.
It's a very dark aesthetic. It's very there's very little of Nicolas Cage in the trailers for Longlegs, and I was kind of struggling because I wanted to include something from the weekend of July 12th, and other than Fly Me to the Moon, the only movie that really was kind of grabbing my attention was Longlegs. The second trailer came out, and it looks a lot better than the first one did because the first one was just a teaser trailer. I love Nicolas Cage. To me, this kind of fits in with what I would expect from Nicolas Cage, and going full Nicolas Cage is kind of a phrase in and of itself nowadays. And we saw him in Redfield as Dracula, so why not as a serial killer? Yes, Maika Monroe is kind of channeling Clarice Starling a little bit. We're getting a little bit of Silence of the Lambs vibes, a little bit, not 100%. I can't really give a good, bad, or meh for this because they've done such a good job about not giving away the plot and the reveals that I don't really know what to think of this film. How about you? Has Longlegs grabbed your attention?
Oh, those long legs have grabbed my attention. So I will say this: you nailed it. They did create the perfect trailer, so to speak, and giving the mystery, keeping the illusion, letting you put whatever the movie's about in your mind, and just focusing more on Maika Monroe. Over what I've read is like a 10-year span. I could be wrong. Some kind of that he's been a serial killer, Nicolas Cage's character, and her just kind of figuring out the inner workings. We see a lot of flash cuts, like you said, of dark imagery and weirdness just happening. And I love that because I didn't know anything about this movie. I was on Twitter and everybody was really hyped about this movie. And I think this movie is going to do very well when it hits theaters, just for that simple fact that they've kept a lot of things under wraps. Nicolas Cage himself has been a part of the horror, especially independent community too, with movies like Mandy, what's that movie called? Color Out of Space, I believe it is, or Color of Space, I think it is. He's done a few independent movies that are darker, and I think he's being definitely embraced by the community, and people are willing to take a chance on someone that hasn't necessarily been on the big screen in a while, like he was back in the 90s or whatever, and in 2000s, but that's okay, because when he does come on screen, I think he does still shine. I think they're doing a great job of keeping, once again, his character under wraps and just letting us sit in theaters, and whatever we get, we'll talk about afterwards. And that's the best way to go into a movie, because we've been shown so much from trailers nowadays, and it is a gift and a curse, because I like to see what's coming up, obviously, but give me a little bit of illusion here, I don't want to know when the main action sequence is gonna happen or whatever, or, someone's gonna potentially die or whatever, but I think this one looks really good. I'm gonna catch this one in theaters though.
And it is interesting because the thing that I love about Nicolas Cage, and I love a lot of different things about Nicolas Cage, but one of the things that I love about Nicolas Cage, and it just kind of dawned on me that this is one of the things that I love about Nicolas Cage, is that Nicolas Cage's taste in movies is so weird that we as movie fans benefit from his weirdness. Because not every film that he does is good or great, but it is different. And you think about all these different films that Nicolas Cage has done over the last 10, 15 years. How many of these movies would never have been made if not for Nicolas Cage saying yes and lending his star power? Yeah. So many of these films, good, bad, or indifferent, good, bad, or meh, that we wouldn't otherwise have, that would be just in, I love franchises, I love superheroes, I don't believe in superhero fatigue, really. But without Nicolas Cage saying yes to this myriad of weird, gross, scary, funny, just weird, like indie films on acid kind of a thing, where would Hollywood be without Nicolas Cage bringing something interesting? Because half of these films, you sit there and go, there's no way that this would be made without an injection of star power, or that sort of thing, or they would be like B movies, or like straight streaming, or just like YouTube student films sort of thing. So the fact that we have Nicolas Cage to thank for more variety, more spice of life in film, I that's one of the things I love about Nicolas Cage. As far as this film goes, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be another beekeeper thing of, the bees. We honestly don't know until this thing comes out. I guess that's part of the beauty of this, the trailer for this, is that it gives nothing. It gives nothing away. So I guess, that's part of, I just don't know. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no meh for me, because they haven't told me anything. They're showing a bunch of dark images, and so Nicolas Cage is a serial killer.
Not showing much, does that intrigue you to kind of go out and want to check it out even more, or does it not really sway?
In this case, it does neither. It doesn't dissuade me, but it doesn't really pique my interest either. I think Nicolas Cage's involvement in this project is the only reason why it does grab my attention, because otherwise it's just another serial killer movie to me. But Nicolas Cage's involvement. Oh, okay. So Nicolas Cage is involved, so there's gonna be something different. There's gonna be something. God, we haven't seen this before. And at its worst, it would be God, it's Nicolas Cage being an actor and trying different actor things. But when Nicolas Cage does it, at least it's weird yeah. So I think to me it's a good thing that this is weird, that we're not getting a whole lot from the trailer. I don't necessarily plan on going to see it in theaters. This is probably one that if I see it on streaming, I probably would watch it. But there's so many other Nicolas Cage films that I've wanted to see in theaters and just never made it out to. Like for example, Pig. I love the trailer for Pig. I really want to see Pig. I just haven't gotten around to watching it yet. So films like that from Nicolas Cage, I don't think, Nicolas Cage in a trailer going, I really want my pig. How do you not want to see a film based off that trailer? That kind of anticipation and me bending over with just laughter. There isn't any of that for this trailer, but Nicolas Cage's involvement grabbed my attention. How about you? Are you planning on watching Longlegs?
Yeah, I think I will watch it in theaters. I'll take a chance, and I'm sure I'm gonna be in a theater full of Nick Cage fans, because that's, like you said, that's probably the selling point. I know Maika Monroe's been in some movies, and It Follows 2 has just been announced, so she's still she is a big name as well. I'm still to the belief that the reason why Nick Cage does so many movies, independent movies, is that he lives a very extravagant lifestyle. I mean, I don't know if you remember that story that came out a while back where he outbid Leonardo DiCaprio for a 70 million year old dinosaur skull. It was like $250,000. It's like, who buys that? And I mean, he has a castle, and it's it's crazy. So I think I don't know if the money's drying out, but to keep up with this lifestyle, I think he has to just keep doing these movies.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage lives here in Las Vegas, and there's a growing entertainment community that's moved here. Mark Wahlberg has moved here to Vegas. They're talking about building some studios here in Las Vegas because there's still a lot of land available, and the cost of living and cost of business is a lot lower here. So Nicolas Cage, there's a reason why he's made a lot of movies about Las Vegas and the fact that he lives in Las Vegas. And he pops up in the news, good and bad, for living in Las Vegas. As a film fan, I love Nicolas Cage. Hearing some of the stories that you hear about Nicolas Cage, I do think he probably does need to keep working regardless just to make money. Because he's not a guy that goes off and lives in the woods by himself. Kind of thing. He definitely has some. He definitely has the kind of quirky taste that you would expect Nicolas Cage to have. So,
Very true.
yeah. So in some ways, it's sort of like Robert De Niro, where he just keeps working because he kind of has to keep working because he's got he's a movie star with movie star budgets. Movie star.
Right.
Yes. So Longlegs also coming out July 12th weekend.
Are those fireworks?
Yes, ma'am.
July 19th, we get the sequel, and it's not a comedy sequel. It is a sequel 30 years in the making. It is Glen Powell, not Channing Tatum, but actually Glen Powell, the actual Top Gun Maverick actor. Daisy Edgar-Jones, and we're getting a bunch of other actors that people will recognize in the sequel to Twisters. Not, kind of feels like it was on the dartboard of potential Twister sequel names. I guess it beats having a colon with a subtitle for no reason. It beats just being Twister 2. Ha ha ha. Not a huge fan of the name, but Twisters. What are your thoughts on the trailer and the potential for Twisters?
So I got to say, when this trailer initially came out, oh God, was this around Super Bowl that the first trailer came out? I want to say, because I remember that was like a big weekend where that one came out. I think our first look at Deadpool, Wolverine and Deadpool came out. So that one came out, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, this looks like a sequel. This looks like a sequel. And then they started implementing so many things that I remember from the original. And I'm like, huh, okay, so this is a reboot? And people were arguing with me it's not a sequel, it's a requel, it's a reboot, it's a rehash, it's a refresh, all these that people were throwing at me. And I'm like, I don't know the difference, but I understand so I guess the director officially came out and said it's not a sequel, but it's gonna be it's not a reboot, but it definitely has some elements of the original. So I guess just paying homage to the original with new characters that seem similar to the first characters. It's very confusing, but the more I see this trailer, especially in theaters, because I saw it here at the house, and when I see it on the theater in the big screen, oh wow, that's a whole different feel. I think this movie is going to be a great summer movie to watch in IMAX, like, a big, huge, whatever you guys can watch it in the biggest scope possible. Do I think it's going to be a good movie though? It's going to be one of those niche demographic movies, because once again, it's a disaster movie at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how many hunky people you have in front of you. I mean, pretty girl, pretty guy, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, is it going to keep your action peak interest? And from what I've seen, you got double tornadoes, and you got a lot of them replicating the same scenes from the first movie, and they're storm chasers and stuff. I don't really know who this demographic is for, but it does look like a fun disaster movie. And you're right. I don't know about the name Twisters. It doesn't roll off the tongue like the first one, Twister, does. But I don't know what else I would have called it, to be honest. I mean, Twister, here we go again. I don't know.
Yeah, let's do the twist like we did last summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing, because it is, it's a proven IP. Twister, the original one in 1996-97, was a huge hit. I'm honestly surprised that they never did another sequel, and now that Bill Paxton is dead, obviously we're not going to get another, one.
John C. Reilly.
Yeah, and Helen Hunt. The thing where they lose me though, when you watch the first Twister, and it's good filmmaking, not great, but it is good filmmaking. It's Apollo 13 level good. But the CGI was, it was not great. It was great for 1996, but it was pretty obviously CGI even back in 1996. The CGI 30 years later is better. It's still, I think, has a certain uncanny valley quality to it. But when I see that we're just going with the same archetypes, we're going with the same, okay, well, Daisy Edgar-Jones is clearly going to be the daughter of Helen Hunt, or the niece, or, that's her role. Glen Powell is clearly doing the Carell kind of combined with Bill Paxton. Okay, so we're combining characters now. That's okay, fine. Anthony Ramos, surprisingly has very low billing on this one. He was like 7th or 8th on the list. That surprises me after he's kind of really emerged as a leading man and, headlined a Transformers movie a year or two ago. So having him in a smaller role kind of surprises me a little bit. But where they completely lose me is where they bring out the Dorothy machine. And
that's where I called it when I was first. Sorry to cut you off, but when I first initially watched the trailer, I go, they brought out Dorothy. This is a reboot. Didn't it say Dorothy 5 or something, or it had a number attached to it, or was I wrong about that?
Yeah. It's, and I don't know whether it's theoretically like the latest iteration of, or it's an homage to, or whether they just literally took the same exact prop and. But one of the good things, really good things about what made Twister original was the idea of a Dorothy, of sending particles up into a tornado, being cutting edge science for the mid '90s. I don't watch a ton of Weather Channel. I don't watch disaster porn kind of stuff. But it seems like with the advances that we've had with satellite technologies, supercomputers, AI,
drones,
LiDAR, drones, I don't think that Dorothy would be considered cutting edge technology anymore.
That's very true.
We have so many good, RFID kind of things. There's so many great technologies that have been implemented and discovered in computers and processing. I don't think that something like Dorothy is convincing in 2024 as being cutting edge, that a research scientist would be putting her life on the line and the lives of her team to get in the path of a tornado to get data that they couldn't get any other way. I find that line harder to cross than the uncanny valley of Jar Jar Binks. Like it's that unconvincing and that unbelievable that a research scientist, and especially after seeing the storylines being told in the trailer, I don't think that someone that would be exposed to that kind of trauma of losing team members would then jump right back into, oh yeah, of course I'll lead the team and drive right back into the line of a tornado.
Well, that's the power of Glen Powell, man.
This is true.
He'll get you to do. He
does have the charisma.
Yeah, he has his face on the T-shirt, and he has the charisma. So
he does have. Well, he does have the ability to get Sydney Sweeney, or at least in the Anyone But You kind of format. And
he saved Tom Cruise and the other kid, I forget his name, but
yeah,
in Maverick,
Goose's son, yeah. Goose's son, I forget the Ace or whatever. I can't remember what his call sign was, but yeah, he's the one Iceman wannabe. I love Glen Powell. I have not seen the Killer yet, or the Hitman.
That's the Netflix movie, right?
I've heard good things about Hitman. I have not seen it yet, but Glen Powell right now is just sort of everywhere, and starring roles, supporting roles, cameos.
He's the new Channing Tatum, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a Glen Powell world, and we're all just sort of in Glen Powell's shadow right now. The other thing that was interesting to me about this film, and it's such an attention grabber because I didn't know the name, but Lee Isaac Chung is the director of this film. And I was looking up all the different directors for all the films in this live stream. Lee Isaac Chung was the director of Minari, the Academy Award nominated film where Steve Ewan won Best Actor. So
you know what? I never saw that. Was that pretty good?
I never saw it either, and I've meant to watch it a couple of times. But when it's a little indie film that gets a Best Actor win, not just a nomination but a win. It's a very specific film. It's about Asian Americans, told from an Asian American perspective, from a director of Asian American descent. Lee Isaac Chung is second generation American, so that intrigues me. The fact that his follow-up film would be Twisters, I find
wild.
I just find that absolutely hilarious, because that is the most American thing that you can do, is take the one thing that made you unique and special and then sell out as soon as you get any kind of success and go, you know what? I want to make a Twisters film. I have no clue how much money they paid Lee Isaac Chung to dump the indie film, Oscar darling stuff, and go make a CGI running for your life from CGI tornadoes. But God bless him for the amount of money he probably made from this film. And I hope
don't be surprised then if they do the all-American thing and have Glen Powell drop in on a missile, like what's that Kubrick movie where he's on the right in the missile? They just drop him. They drop him in the middle of the tornado.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. It's from the mid-60s. Oh God. Yeah. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, just between
something like that.
Between the Oscar-nominated director and Glen Powell's abs and shit-eating grin, and I don't swear a lot on my channel, but Glen Powell's smile, it's just the perfect. It is the best shit-eating grin since Ian Ziering from 90210, from Steve Sanders from 90210. There's never been an actor with a better shit-eating grin than Ian Ziering until Glen Powell. That is one of the things that I love best about Glen Powell. So, so for those reasons, I am intrigued. To me, the Lee Isaac Chung and Glen Powell's part of the good. I'm okay. Daisy Edgar-Jones, but the CGI.
I don't even think I've seen her in much, to be honest. I know she did that movie, The Craw, where the Crawdads are, or whatever that movie was.
That was good. She did a really good job of that, and I believe she's British. So the fact that she's been able to convincingly do an American accent several times, and in that film she was doing like a Southern accent, a Louisiana kind of Bayou accent, running around in a crop top reminds me of Helen Hunt. But when I see her, I keep thinking that they wanted to get Maggie Grace from Terminator, the last Terminator film, and The Martian. I keep thinking Maggie Grace instead of Daisy Edgar-Jones, which to me just I think goes to the non-specificity of this film and how kind of interchangeable you can say, well, let's get a talented actress who's very attractive in her late 20s, early 30s, and cast someone who's up and coming to be opposite Glen Powell. And there's probably like 5 or 6 actresses that could have cast, and so Daisy Edgar-Jones is one of them. This kind of feels like, to me, I could be wrong.
Oh, you mean Mackenzie Davis?
Mackenzie Davis, yeah, that was it.
Mackenzie Davis, yeah.
Mackenzie Grace, yeah. And there is an actress named Mackenzie Grace, but I was thinking Mackenzie Davis, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kept thinking like, the chick from Terminator, whatever the last Terminator was.
Dark Fate.
Yeah, Dark Fate, yeah. Because it was that memorable. I thought it was okay. It wasn't as bad as Genesis, because nothing's as bad as Genesis. But
yeah, that's
Dark Fate was one that just when they lost me at Carl's Blinders, or the T-1000 that came back, or the T-800 that came back and killed them off. The Carl's it's a throwaway joke, but the daytime setting and the being stuck at the border, I think there were some ideas there, but I don't think it came across well. But I just for whatever reason I just kept seeing. I'm looking at Daisy Edgar-Jones' name. I'm looking at her. I know her face, but I keep seeing Mackenzie Davis. So my guess is they probably had several different actresses planned out.
Yeah, that would have been a good. And then she's coming up. Is that movie coming up in next month as well, or maybe that's later down the line? The Speak No Evil. It's a remake of a movie that only came out a couple years ago. It's like an international film, but that also has Mackenzie Davis. That one's doing its trailer run. A lot of people are flipping out about that. James McAvoy and Mackenzie Davis.
Okay. So
have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it. Haven't seen the trailer for it. Doesn't surprise me though.
September it comes out. Sorry.
Nice. And also interesting. Future Superman David Cornsweet also in this film, and Kiernan Shipka, who was the daughter on Mad Men, and Maura Tierney from Liar Liar, and so good cast, just like the original Twister. So we'll see. I'm not terribly optimistic, but I'm not really good, bad, or meh with this film. I'm just sort of like, it's interesting. It's light summer, I guess. Sort of.
So do you think you're still gonna catch it on a streamer when it does come out?
This actually might be one that I wouldn't catch on streaming, but might actually go see on like a Tuesday night discount night kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
Because it's a big budget visual thing, so it makes sense to watch it in theaters. In some ways, it doesn't make sense to watch it at home unless you have an 80-inch TV or something, which I don't. So I might end up seeing this like on a Tuesday night kind of thing. So we'll see.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now. Whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40. You don't want this. Come again.
The only MCU movie coming out in the entire year of 2024. It was one of my most anticipated movies for 2024 as a whole, and it was my number 2 movie for summer of 2024. Deadpool and Wolverine. Ryan Reynolds back. Hugh Jackman,
Yes.
back. Sean Levy, back. And I know he hasn't directed every single Deadpool film, but as we were saying, he did a good job with Free Guy. He did a good job with the Atom Project. What are your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine?
I'm just really glad that they were able to push for an R rating, especially since Disney is the king, at this point of owning everything now. Because that was the one thing that everybody was really, same with Blade. Whenever that comes out, everybody was like, we need this to be an R like the original, because dealing with certain characters, their subject nature or a track record of the first two movies that came out, if you don't keep that going, with the vulgarity, with the blood, with the whatever crazy situations that they get into in an R setting, I think you're really going to upset some fans that really do love this character. And that has a lot to do with Ryan Reynolds, is that I swear to this day, since we saw Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, I cannot unsee him in any other role, as anything else. He gives off those mannerisms. And Free Guy, he was like that. Even in Atom Project, he was like that. For me, at least. I haven't seen If, which just came out on digital, but I heard that one's a good one as well. Or Imaginary Friends, I should say. But I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to this one a lot. I'm so glad that Hugh Jackman came back and wanted to give it one last go, so to speak. And he looks great in this movie in the yellow suit. He's giving off the same mannerisms. I don't know if you've seen, because you said you didn't go back to the theater. You haven't gone back to the theater really, but they've been putting up PSAs for Wolverine and Deadpool about turning off your phone. Have you seen that at all yet?
No.
Oh, you should look it up. There's actually a trailer for it online.
Saw the popcorn bucket.
Oh God, I need that. I need that. That's straight out of the mind of Ryan Reynolds. Like only he would do that for a movie like this, and it's so funny that it got greenlit. But there's a PSA that they always talk about. Silence your phones before the movie and yada yada. But they do it with these two characters, and there's something between this banter. Like you're gonna expect a lot of just dialogue heavy in the most satirical, just aggravated characters, because they hate each other. They ultimately hate each other. They're obnoxious. And I can't wait to see that on the big screen played out in this whatever time we get, because I know they're going to be jumping through time warps and stuff, or time portals and stuff like that. We've seen that in the trailers, and they've alluded into some of these newer trailers that there's like Ant-Man is like I don't know what's going on with the Ant-Man thing, but like his skeleton is right there. And I'm trying to figure out, based on pausing, I'm a pauser when it comes to the trailers, and I'm seeing characters from other X-Men movies coming in, and I'm like, oh man, there's a Lady Deathstrike or whatever her name is with the claws. And I'm like, I'm seeing all these other characters, and I'm like, where are they going to go with it? Is it just going to be a cameo, or are they really going to open up the world of the X-Men that we grew up with, the live action ones? Because those weren't necessarily the greatest, but a lot of us grew up on those and stuff. So I'm very intrigued how they go story wise with this, but I think we're going to get a lot of time jumping, which is going to lead to a lot of cool cameos. Once again, the soundtrack is going to be killer, because the first two movies, they were really fun. I think the second one is more fun than the first one, but the first one maybe a better character movie for Deadpool, because at least in the with the first one, it's more Deadpool, even though there is like a few X-Men in there. But the second one is so heavy with X-Force, I believe is what they call the squad. You just have so much going on, and it's just so wild of what's happening in that movie, that they're just very fun movies, and I just hope they keep that same theme going with this new one, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, me as well. You think about exits and retirements, and the perfect exit, and it doesn't get any more perfect for exiting a character than Hugh Jackman at the end of Logan. And I'm not.
Oh yeah.
I'm not like, oh, there's a death scene, and like I think a lot of actors, like Leonardo DiCaprio loves dying in movies, and actors in general, I think like to explore the death scene, of it all. But Hugh Jackman's death in Logan was such an earned death. It made a lot of sense. So the fact that he's coming back, and it's funny because it doesn't feel like it's been 6-7 years, but Logan came out 2016, 2017-ish. That's 6-7 years ago now. So it's been a while. He looks the same. And you're telling me we can get a guy who almost got nominated for an Oscar for playing this character, joining the most successful superhero franchise of all time, alongside the guy who set the record for, or almost set the record for rated R movie box office, Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool.
Yeah.
What's not to like about this? So the MCU has fallen off from its peak MCU-ness, and I think that was going to be impossible to not do at some point. I hope that Bob Iger coming back and kind of retaking the reins, and Kevin Feige going, okay, let's slow things down because we can and because we need to. So the fact that this is the only MCU movie we're getting this year, and part of that too is there were 2 or 3. Originally, there was, I think, 4 different MCU movies scheduled to come out this year, and then the writer's strike happens, and then Phase 4 happens, and we're left with this film, which was originally supposed to come out in, I think, September or November, getting moved up and then getting moved back. So even this release date, I think originally was the Captain America 4 release date. I could be wrong there.
Wow. Yeah,
but
that
even the release date for Deadpool and Wolverine has moved around quite a bit. So, if there's any trust for sure that is left in the superhero genre for me, it's Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. So my guess, and this is, it's not so much a good, bad, or meh. The only way this movie fails is if it comes out as it was all right. Like, if this film comes out and offends everybody or entertains everybody, it will be a success. If it comes out and it's just sort of, if it gets the reception of Fall Guy or Fly Me to the Moon, like if audiences leaving Fly Me to the Moon have a similar audience score as Deadpool and Wolverine, then this movie will be a colossal failure. Anything short of that, though, and I think Ryan Reynolds has a good enough track record that he's earned the benefit of any doubt, and I'm not doubting, but I am not as excited as I thought I would be seeing the trailers for this. And maybe it's just because I had so much anticipation that there's no way the trailers could live up to that anticipation. And looking at all of the leaked set photos and have, we saw the Wolverine yellow costume 6, 8, 9 months ago that they're filming. So none of this is really new because I'm one that I like. I don't mind spoilers at all, but there is a certain amount of, I've been so eager for any kind of news coming out of this movie. That there is a certain amount of, I've spoiled myself, by opening up Christmas presents before Christmas morning. So that's the only thing that kind of has me a little bit, not meh or bad, but just kind of reserving judgment a little bit. But I am super, super excited for this. I love, the fact that they were able to get Hugh Jackman to come back, because I don't think he needs the money. Yes, he just got divorced, so who doesn't need money when you're getting divorced? But Hugh Jackman doesn't strike me as a guy that he would do this film for the money. It just doesn't strike me that he's such an artist, like he's a guy that, he's Wolverine, but he's also a guy who does musical theater and who goes on Broadway and who sings and dances and is an actor. So to me, this is not a thing where I think Hugh Jackman would risk that legacy just for a payday, because I don't think he just needs the payday for the sake of getting a payday. So is there anything that's kind of making you go, I hope, but fingers crossed?
Well, now you have me thinking a little bit. I mean, I don't think this is going to be a Madame Web situation at all, but I mean, I think Marvel nerds and Star Wars nerds are probably the strongest out there as far as trying to protect, the integrity of their characters or IP or whatever to the fullest. And I think when it comes to the characters of surrounding Deadpool, just the Deadpool sphere, I think they've been doing a good job of keeping the continuity of pretty much intact when it comes to the lore, or like even the cartoons that I grew up on and stuff like that. And I think he knows that that's important to the fans. And I don't think he would let someone, even like a Disney, try to butcher that or downplay something. Like, you know, worrying about if something's going to get too political or too sensitive here or there to offend somebody. And like you said earlier, I think they just go in offending everybody. So we're not going to really have too much to worry about. It is going to be it's going to have to hit on the same, once again, effect of the first two movies. We're looking for an action movie of the summer, whether it's superhero or not. We're looking for this with a balance out of comedy, because that's what it is essentially, right? The banter of these two characters that don't get along, but they have to work together for whatever mission is happening. I'm sure a lot of twists and turns. You're going to get the famous, 20 end credit scenes that, we always get from these Marvel movies. But I like what you said earlier too, is that there's not really superhero fatigue. It's just that some of these movies aren't top tier movies like we got a while back, and I totally agree with that, because I think the last superhero movie that I saw was Blue Beetle in theaters, and I just saw it because I didn't even know who that character was. I'm not even up to date with anything DC really, and I had an enjoyable time with that, because I didn't know anything about the comic or where it came from, but I just liked the way everything looked. I thought it was funny in the parts that were supposed to be funny. I thought the action was there when it needed to be. The suit looked, the CGI was very good. I thought the acting from the main actor Zolo was really good, because I like him in Cobra Kai. Yeah. So I was fine with that. But when it comes to Marvel, you need to watch all the series and 1,000 different programs that they have to tie into these movies, and I wasn't going to do that.
There's
I think some people,
for sure.
Yeah, there is a lot of homework, and same thing with the Star Wars movies and shows and stuff like that, and it can be exhausting. And I mean, you know how much we have to keep up with a lot of this stuff. So, but I think this is one of those where, even if it is a time span of 7 years from the last movie or whatever, this is like a property that somehow you just keep remembering, whether they drop every 7 years, whether they drop every week. Like, this guy in a red suit, this man with the claws, you know who these characters are. They're just very iconic, like a Superman. You don't have to drop a Superman every 5 years, because that character. You just know it. It's ingrained in your DNA, whether you know the movie or not. So I think this is going to be a fun one. I don't know if it's going to do like Joker numbers as far as like over 1 billion. I think it's going to do very well. But there is a piece of me that thinks that this could be like a Furiosa situation, where we're building it up so much, and then we get like 35 mil at the box office domestically, and it's just kind of, it's like, whoa, what happened? This movie needs to hit at least 100 mil first weekend, like a Bad Boys, and kind of go from there. I believe in it, so I think it will pay off.
Now, are you much of a comic book fan? Like, I'm not a comic book reader. I love superheroes. I love superhero cartoons, movies, TV shows, every iteration except comic books. So I don't mind comic books. It's just not really my thing. Are you much of a comic book reader?
No, you know what? I grew up reading some of the comics, but I was more of a card collector, the comic card collecting.
Oh, okay.
Of like, so this is in the mid 90s. So whenever X-Men was doing I don't even know who put them out, but I was collecting cards like crazy. And just on the back, it just told like their story, or like there was always these verses, situations that were happening. And I do remember a lot of the X-Men, me favoring more of the X-Men than any other cartoon. Like, I grew up watching like Spider-Man. I didn't grow up watching Batman, which I know a lot of people my age did as well. And they said that was there was some kind of Batman cartoon in the 90s that was really well received. I know a lot of people were talking about that one, but I didn't watch that. I was more of just the Marvel into Marvel card collecting and video games. I played all the video games too that came out, either arcade games or console, Nintendo, Super Nintendo. that were coming out around that time. So that's kind of what I was gravitating more towards.
Now, I asked that because are you familiar with either Emma Corrin? She the villain in this film is played by an actress named Emma Corrin, who I've never heard of before, and she's playing a character called Cassandra Nova. Now, I've never heard of Cassandra Nova, but when I looked her up, she's basically a evil twin of Professor X. Deadpool has taken, I'd never heard of Negasonic Teenage Warrior either. Before
I think that might have been.
I
think that might have been a newer. I think that might have been a after 2000s. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, and Deadpool is famous for taking unknown characters or little known characters and making them big in the movie, and then they become successful comics afterwards. So that wouldn't surprise me.
First appeared in New X-Men number 114 in July 2001.
Oh wow!
So that's when I would have stopped all of that. So I didn't know too much about it, but it is always interesting how they introduce characters into the MCU or just in anything superhero that are after the 21st century, because I feel like more fanfare would be towards the 90s, 80s, 70s,
Yep.
But for some reason they don't focus too. I mean, unless it's like a Lex Luthor or something like that, but I see a lot more 21st century villains than I do the opposite.
These films aren't famous for the villains. I mean, you got I don't remember the character's name, but the dude with the arm from the first film that was like the British accent.
Oh yeah, was it Ajax?
Yeah, Ajax. Yeah, that's right. The cleaning company one. Yeah,
I never liked that villain. I never liked it. Like him.
So you got Ajax from the first film, and you got, who really was the villain in Deadpool 2?
Was it? I think Juggernaut was in the second one. No.
Yeah, it was Juggernaut, but it was also Fire Fist from the future, and in the first act, it's actually Cable. So it's kind of it's.
Oh yeah, Cable.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting thing that we have these movies that everyone seems to love, but there's not really a villain that's iconic that stands off versus Deadpool in any way, shape, or form. It's just sort of Deadpool versus everybody, and however the personality or the jokes can fall in around Deadpool seems to be the opponent that Deadpool is best versus. So,
well, I think that's what we possibly might get just to keep it entertaining, is that, especially with the cameos and all this time travel jump that we get, I think they're going to be jumping through time and no one's going to know who Deadpool is. So they're just going to look at him as a rival, and they're just everybody's going to be fighting. That's why we get these, shots of some X-Men characters either coming through or Deadpool came in through their time.
Yep.
I'm thinking that people are coming through like a kind of a Avengers Endgame situation. Where all the characters are coming through for this final fight, because the Ant-Man thing still has me for a loop. Why is there an Ant-Man corpse there? Did you see that in the trailer?
Yeah, and then also that they have Deadpool and Wolverine jumping through a Doctor Strange portal.
Yeah, the portal thing, and that's what I'm saying. Like, either people come through or they're just jumping through people's timelines and they're fighting them.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what we saw at the end of Deadpool 2, right? When remember when he was jumping through time and he shot the he shot the original prototype for Deadpool when it was introduced in Origins.
Yeah.
Oh God, that movie. But yeah, that was pretty funny. Well, and that's another thing too, is that people love how meta Deadpool is. Yeah. Just like they like the Scream movies. In superhero form, this is what we get, our Scream version of it.
And I love everything about this setup. It makes me wonder, because that first trailer, that first teaser trailer we got, where the TVA from Loki was getting involved. So they're definitely going full MCU with this. And there was even a couple of pictures from the set where they literally had a broken up 20th Century Fox logo in the background, or like the actual Yeah. So
Yeah, they're like fighting around it.
yeah. So I wonder. I don't think that anything is going to be bad here. I wonder if it's going to be great, and I hope that it will. I just hope that I just hope that this doesn't disappoint, in that expectations have been set so high that there's no way that it could actually meet expectations. So that'd be like my only not meh or bad, but just sort of the withholding judgment a little bit. So this is definitely one that I'm going to be there opening weekend, opening night. How about you? Are you going to be there in theaters to watch this film?
Oh, I got my tickets already. Yeah. I got my tickets, and I just hope that the rest of the world that wants to see this movie win, I hope they don't think to themselves, well, this will be on streamer in a month. Because people need to stop looking at things like that. Like, if you really do love these characters and these movies, you want to support them, please go out in the theater and watch them. Because as we've seen over like the last 20 years, ticket sales have been declining. The price of tickets are going up. Concession stands are going up. The budgets for movies keep going up. They never stop. I don't know how is this sustainable? It doesn't make any sense. But that's the only way to keep these theaters alive is by actually going and supporting that way, by buying a ticket. And it's going to be, I'm really crossing my fingers, but to make a lot of money on a movie in 2024 is pretty hard to do. So, but I do think that they have enough people involved, and it looks good from what I've seen so far.
That's our July good, bad, or meh. Are you happy with the movies coming out in July, and are you optimistic, or is it kind of a underwhelming month?
No, I actually think this is a big month coming up. June was okay. It's not the biggest, but we do have some big movies in July coming up, and it does feel like summer. I will say that it does feel like summer movie season, and I'm excited to go back to the theaters, to be honest, because the atmosphere is what I love about the movies.
So which of these July movies are you excited to see? Let me know in the comments section below this video which ones you think are good, bad, or just meh. Let me know in the comments section. Also, which of these movies are you planning to watch in theaters? Let me know in the comments section below as well. I've been Dragon Movie Guy. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Also, be sure to click right over here or right over here, whichever one. I have another video coming up next that I think you would very much enjoy. Yes. Thank you for watching. I've been Dragon Movie Guy, and I'll see you next time.